Hello and welcome to FlightSim Alaska. I'm Dave. Today we're in Hope, Alaska, just the very northern edge of Alaska's Kenai Peninsula. We're going to continue our tour of Alaska today, and specifically the Kenai Peninsula and Cook Inlet, by heading north and then turning east, up Turnagain Arm, and then heading up the Placier River Valley towards the Trail Lakes, which brings us back down south into the Kenai River pointed towards Seward. We're in the Icon A5 today. I was kind of hoping to do a water landing in Upper Trail Lake, and so that's what we're going to do. This particular runway here in Hope is kind of messed up in the sim, and so I'm sort of hoping we can get enough airspeed to get off the ground here before we hit the... Oh boy, that was a close call. So here we are pointed west towards Anchorage, and you can probably see just off our nose there's some bluffs, and that's really true to life. And of course, just left of those bluffs in the distance, you can see Mount Susitna, or Sleeping Ladies, it's sometimes known. And when it's nice and clear, that's really true to life. That's really legitimately what you might see. And we're going to turn east here in a second, but I just kind of want to keep this here and going out the Seward Highway up against the Chugach Mountains there. Now, in the very first video I posted about this tour, I talked about where the English name Turnagain Arm came from, coming from Captain Cook in the late 1700s, but I didn't mention what the indigenous name was. That is to say, the Dena'ina Athabascan people, what their place name for this location was. And I apologize, I'm going to butcher this. This is Toodle, something like that. It means rear water. I butchered the name, and I also feel like there's some kind of story behind rear water, or maybe more context that I just don't have any kind of access to at the minute. But that's what the local folks call it. Right now, we're pointed at a little area called Indian. That's this area here. Historically associated with mining, sort of similar to both Hope behind us here, and then Sunrise just around that cape there. Here in a second we're going to turn east. We're now looking kind of at the Bird Creek area. That's right there against the highway. That's actually blast off the mountain. That's a parking lot. People go park there, and then they'll go fishing for salmon in here. And I think you can hike further back up in there and go fishing for other stuff, probably Dolly Varden and rainbow trout and that sort of thing. There's a gas station over here, and this lodge, kind of log cabin looking thing, where they sell these chainsaw carved bears and moose that are large, and they sit on your front porch. You know, I'm not sure what's happening over here. These two lagoons, I think that's what they are. They're on the other side of the highway. So the highway's on this side, and these are on the other side. Through here is a really active avalanche area in the wintertime. Have a lot of avalanches come. Sometimes I'll shoot them down so that they don't just interrupt traffic. So, and I know I've said this a bunch of times, this really should be a bunch of mud flats in here, and it's not. So I just wanted to put that out there again. Again, this should be more rugged. We keep complaining about that. Here's Sunrise here, and the Hope Highway that heads off towards where the Seward Highway meets it. The Seward Highway actually loops around and then meets the Hope Highway way back in the pass over there. So right now we're looking at Bird Point. It's a recreation area. You can kind of see this spit of land. We'll get a better look at that later on. I feel like in real life that looks and feels like it stretches way out to the middle here. I don't think it really does, but it sure feels like it. And again, this is sort of a day use area. You go picnicking or sightseeing. You do sometimes get beluga whales that'll be chasing salmon or what have you up in here, and you can see them from this vantage. It's a good place to view. Used to be the highway. You can see it running along the very edge of the water here. It used to run up along higher here. You can see it right there. When I was a kid, it was very dangerous, very narrow sort of highway situation, but it was also really scenic because you're up so high you could see really far. And I remember being really pretty. This is a much safer scenario here, and this is still, I think, a hiking trail you can go up. And actually, there's hiking trails throughout this whole area. Recreation all in this. The Chugach State Park is kind of back up in there, and I don't know what the exact boundaries are, but that's you know, again, full of recreation, hiking, and that kind of thing. So we're aiming towards the end of Turnagain Arm here. We're going to pass Girdwood and pass into the Chugach National Forest. And these are all the Chugach Mountains through here. Again, this is, except for these two things, this is very true to life. It's very steep in here, very scenic, lots of birch and spruce and that kind of stuff. Very South Central Alaska kinds of foliage. In the fall time, it's very pretty in here. This gets to be a very brilliant gold color. I like the authenticity of the pullout right there. That's very true. This through here is like 4 lanes, 2 going each way, and it's not a divided highway. I just want to let that slide by. It's very pretty. I can't even, I feel like whenever I'm driving through here, it's never this clear. It's usually clouds all through here, but it's still pretty even then, even when it's cloudy and overcast. And it's just such a pretty area to drive through and to visit. I'll do my best to try to keep this aircraft from getting gnarly on me. You can kind of see here where the highway's right down against the water, and that's super true. And again, this is all mud flats, and through here I feel like there's a channel of water that just kind of sometimes seems more like a river than it does an inlet or a bay. And I think that comes down from these rivers we're going to come visit here in a minute. They kind of follow a channel along here, and so you get rushing water in or out depending upon where the tide's at. Now this landscape here is somewhat uninspiring, but it's fairly true to life. It's plain. These are no big slide areas. There's not a whole lot going on there. Not a lot of big trees, just low alders and willows and kind of mountain foliage you might expect in this area. And we're pointed at Girdwood over here. This is a ski town, actually. Big Sitka spruces up in here. There's a Alyeska resort and skiing area. That's they've got chairs that lifts that come up in here and you can go up and ski down that. This whole area here is basically, I feel like, where the temperate rainforest starts, and this is a temperate rainforest that's included in the Chugach National Forest that we're about to pass into. It starts in this stretch somewhere. And this rainforest, this temperate rainforest, stretches all the way down into the Pacific Northwest towards Washington and Oregon. And I feel like in this region, this line right here, this ridge is where it starts, because from here you've got South Central Alaska types of foliage, birch trees and that kind of stuff. And then here you get Sitka spruces and hemlocks really start in. On the southern side of Turnagain Arm, it's a little bit different. I feel like it's those kinds of trees and things are a little bit more present. But in Upper Cook Inlet, in this area, you get these microclimates that really, it doesn't, over here it's colder, and over here it's a lot more temperate. It's like that throughout this region. So it's sort of interesting and weird. So again, looking at Girdwood, we've got the road here from the main highway. There's a gas station here that I feel like everybody stops at that gas station. I feel like every time I go south to Seward or to Kenai, that I stop here for coffee and gas. I don't always need to, but I do. And it's a very busy place. Kind of reminds me of Breezewood in Pennsylvania. If you've ever been through that area, that state, and kind of crossed through that way, that's the equivalent here. And they got a Glacier Creek or come through here. Very pretty sort of meadow areas. Looks like farmland from here, but it's really not. And then also there's mining up in here historically. Not anymore, I don't think so much. This is Crow Creek Pass, or Crow Creek Trail, and that will actually go from here. You can hike all the way from here to Eagle River, which is north of Anchorage. And to be fair, the municipality of Anchorage actually stretches from Eagle River way up over here north of the city down past Girdwood here. Girdwood is a part of the city of Anchorage. And so it's a tremendously vast geographic area for this city, and that's sort of a common thing in Alaska is that kind of shenanigans. So now we're pointed more or less straight at the 20-mile river. There's the Portage Creek here and Portage Lake, and there's a glacier up in there, Portage Glacier, and that's a very, very popular local tourist and recreation destination. Bunch of things about this area that I want to share. To start with, I want to talk about the local indigenous, local Native Alaska stuff. This is basically where we start to come to the border of the Dena'ina Athabascan traditional lands and Alutiiq lands. And this pass here is called, and I'm going to butcher this, so bear with me, Elfchena Kutch Akadelft. I got that wrong. You can see the text. If you know it better, thank you. And I apologize for messing that up. But what that actually means is where the Alutiiq come from over here. So that just kind of gives you an idea about what this is all about here. Now, 20 Mile Creek, something interesting here is that every year we get these big runs of hooligan, which are small fish, not much larger than a herring, that come in here, and hundreds of people come in here with these fine mesh dip nets and pull these things out. I had the good fortune of getting some one year that I smoked. My wife cut the heads off and helped me debone them and things, and they were amazing. They were very good fish, very oily fish. They're called sometimes candlefish. I can't pronounce the other name. I know what it is. It starts with an E. But so every spring you see people will line up the highway here, and they'll come down and they'll dip net right in there. Let's see, what else do we got here? The Seward Highway kind of follows along here, comes up this pass. The Alaska Railroad goes up this other pass. This is where we're headed. We're going to follow the Alaska Railroad. They do follow two different passes towards Seward. The Alaska Railroad also has a spur here. It goes this way towards east, and that goes towards Whittier in Prince William Sound. It actually goes through a tunnel, and you can get there with the road too. There's a fork in the road, and that goes off this direction. And you can get through that tunnel that way. Now, Whittier is an interesting place, and we'll get to Whittier later on, much later video probably. I like to talk about Whittier because it's kind of a unique location. But another interesting thing here is this region was devastated by the 1964 Good Friday earthquake. The land dropped. No tsunami came up in here. Cook Inlet we didn't get that, but we did get the land dropping significantly, and it inundated this community of Portage. And Portage first appeared in the U.S. Census in the 1950s, and by 1964 it was wiped out. And I remember as a kid driving through here and seeing the old buildings, dilapidated buildings, kind of falling into the muskeg and the muck amongst sort of these, I guess, fossilized looking trees that were inundated from salt water coming in from Turnagain Arm when the land dropped. And it's never been repopulated in here. And to this day, you can still drive by and see remnants of that settlement. It's pretty neat to see, and I've always thought it was a neat story, and always kind of wondered about it. Also in this area, we've got a wildlife rehabilitation area. They've got wood bison in here and moose and all kinds of stuff. You can get tickets and drive around in here and look at the wildlife. I've never done it. It's a little bit expensive, but if you want to see wood bison and that kind of stuff, it's a cool place to go. There's a Seward Highway is kind of passing underneath us right now, and again, we're aiming for this valley here in the Placier River. We're going to head that direction, and again, the railroad takes a different pass. And again, you can see this here. This looks very good. This looks exactly what it should look like. Just look over that 20 mile here. And there are a lot of these lagoons. This is fairly true to life. And again, mud flats through here. This is very, very muddy all through here. So now we're going to kind of turn our attention a little bit more towards the Placier River Valley as we head up. The Spencer Glacier is up here, and I don't know if we're going to quite make it to that before I cut us off for a little bit, but we'll have a look at it as I fly by no matter what. I will say that the landscape through here feels authentic, even though I've never been up here. It's, I've only ever seen it from the highway. We're going to kind of get into territory that you have to get to by boat or plane, and I don't have either of those things. So this is really kind of the first time I'm coming through here. I will say that these braids of river and sloughs, this is really true to life. Whenever you see these kinds of rivers, these glacial fed rivers, are just cutting their banks. This is usually what they look like. It's this kind of windy, twisty stuff with all these crazy sloughs and weird bows and things like this. And this looks pretty good as we fly through here. I don't really want to stop necessarily. It gets uglier as we move up, but this, except for the usual artifacts, the lakes being too high and stuff, looks pretty good. I mean, honestly, that looks really, really nice. This is good. It should be a little bit more rugged, but this is really representative. And there are a lot of hanging glaciers and stuff in here. This is a hanging glacier. I wanted to point this one out because it looks great. You know, a river coming down here, and then it opens up into this wide channel of river that is mostly sand and mud bank and rocks and that kind of thing. And that's super true to life. This is how I see most glacial outflows whenever I've driven past them or seen them. This is what they really usually look like. And in this game, we tend to get these weird artifacts. You can see one up here where the lake is sort of raised up, and it's probably a mix of lake and mud bank and stuff. And this is what it probably ought to look like. And this looks fantastic. Really, it does. And this too, actually. I mean, these look to me like they've actually were taken at different times of year. This looks like a springtime situation. This looks like a summertime situation. I'm trying not to crash into the mountain here. So I think I'm going to leave you with this for a second, and then we'll catch up here just on the other side of Spencer Glacier. We'll talk for a minute. So here we are just passing Spencer Glacier. Again, we've got one of these crazy artifacts with a raised lake that drives me bonkers, but I just wanted to point out the glacier here, and you can imagine what this looks like in real life. It's just got to be spectacular. These textures really sort of paint a story. The main reason I kind of wanted to stop here and talk before I send us back into montage land is that in spite of this creek, this lake being ridiculous, and probably, I mean, look at that, actually, it's got a couple icebergs. That's kind of cool. Actually, it'd be great if it was down on the ground. But I wanted to point this out, is that this area here, let's see if I can get a better look at it. This is very true to life. This kind of fan here, that's really what I'd expect to see. If this was flat, this would look so darn good. It would just be absolutely true to life. And I'm coming up here to a canyon that I'm probably going to crash into. I can imagine in real life what this canyon must look like. It must be absolutely stunning. We are trying to follow the Alaska Railroad and sort of lost track of where the heck that's at this point. Just too busy looking at the landscape. Look at that glacier. You can almost see the texture on it. I just feel like that's great. Ooh. Alright, a little too low here. Need to pay more attention to the flying and less attention to the landscape here, I suppose. There's a railroad behind us. So now we're coming into a valley that, again, we're still following the Placier River. It's still the Placier River right there. And Bartlett Glacier is just in front of us in the next valley up. There's the Trail Glacier, and that's what leads out into Trail Lakes. And there's, again, it's sort of almost a continental divide kind of thing where you've got this stuff flowing here, and then you get up over this ridge and things are going the other direction towards the south. We got Bartlett Glacier over here, and as we move into this area, things get a little ugly. there are a lot more of these crazy raised artifacts, and it's a lot less scenic and more disruptive. I mean, some of it looks pretty good. This river coming under the Alaska Railroad here looks pretty good. This hanging glacier up here looks pretty good too. I'm not gonna lie. Hanging glacier up here. I guess this is a hanging glacier too, but still, this is very spectacular. If it weren't for these crazy artifacts here. So, but what I will say at this point is that as we head past our Bartlett Glacier and down towards the Trail Creek, things get a lot less scenic, and I have a whole lot less to say about this region. I couldn't find a lot to say about it with place names for Alaska Native place names, and you know, there's I guess there is the Alaska Railroad does have a annual event where they come up in March and they do a skiing event up in here, and that's kind of a big deal. I kind of want to point that out. It was canceled this year, sort of just the 11th hour as people are preparing to come out here, and but it is a big deal, and kind of a lot of fun for folks that like to come out and ski. The train kind of comes out to this valley and stops and ski around, and then they take you back home. But with that, I think I'm going to leave you here, and I'll see if I can slice in a few bits of really good scenery as we slide towards the south and that upper Trail Lake. We'll make that water landing. Coming into Upper Trail Lake in the Moose Pass area, you can kind of see the Alaska Railroad below us here, heading off towards the south. The Seward Highway is off over here towards our west, heading south or north, I suppose, depending on where you want to go. Just past this ridge here, on the other side, and I don't think we're going to quite get over there to see it, there's a fish hatchery that's along the highway, and that hatchery is responsible for producing a bunch of sockeye salmon that are produced, or I guess distributed throughout the area. So just kind of want to point that out. It's not too far up this valley here that we come back with it and meet up with the Sterling Highway and head towards Kenai and Soldotna and Homer, those places, and also head up towards Anchorage through this valley. So again, we're heading down towards the Upper Trail Lake. I did look for, we're still in Dena'ina, Athabascan territory, or just barely, and I did look for a place name for this particular lake, and I couldn't find anything. What I got was a place name for the area, and again, I'm going to apologize for butchering it, but it's a Nus, let me get this right, Nusdelent. And what that means is where current joins. As with some of the previous places, such as Turnagain Arm, I sort of feel like there's more to that story. A literal translation isn't doing us any good here. There must be more to it. Also, with this lake, similar to Skilac Lake and Kenai Lake, which we'll see again here in a little bit, it's the water in here is bright blue. It's very, very pretty. It's been a long time since I've been down here, but it's a gorgeous lake. Again, we got these crazy artifacts. The highway's actually above here. Moose Pass, the community of Moose Pass, is just over here. Not much to see there. It doesn't even have a gas station. It's a community of about 220 people. Since a designated place that runs from around that ridge there near where the Turn Lake is, and we saw that a couple videos ago. I guess last video now. Over to here, and you can see Lower Trail Lake there, and Kenai Lake off in the distance. Resurrection Bay is off over there. So we're going to visit all that stuff in the next video. So for right now, I think I might just leave you here. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button. If you want to see more and follow me as I tour Alaska, hit the subscribe button. And if you want to know exactly when stuff is coming out, make sure to hit that notify button. Thanks for hanging out with me. I'm having a great time doing these. I hope you're enjoying them too. And I'll catch you in the next video.